to hit the live button. Yes. Now I have to hit the live button from the YouTube console. Now it tells me I'm live.
Mm-hmm.
Are we live, guys? Can you put something in the chat? To hit the live, yes. Now I have to hit the live button from the YouTube.
Now we're live.
Okay. Okay, let me turn this off.
Jürgen, you got feedback on yours.
Can anybody write something in the chat if this is working, if you're seeing us well? Okay. Current viewers 6. Anyway. Okay, let's start. Martin, you're with us?
I'm here. It's been a while, Jürgen.
Okay, thanks guys for joining. So this is a new idea Martin and I had, that we want to extend the Apex World for Dummies show, which I do for a while now, where I explain complicated tech stuff for simple people, business people, citizen developers. And I also did this with Niels recently with Flows for Apex, first version. And now we came up with the idea that we use this as a new opportunity to have a live stream and also have a first part of that where we talk about general stuff, Apex related. What's hot, what's new in the world of Apex, products, releases, plugins, whatnot. I have whatever you come up with. So please join and write your suggestions, what in the comments. Today we talk about 22.2, the release, what we think about it, and what we would like to see in the future. Please join and tell us what you think and what you would like to see in the future. But also, if you have any ideas what you want to see on this channel where you can participate and want to show something, please let us know. Write us an email. So the email addresses are in the pre-show already, and most of you people know how to contact us. So it's Martin and me. Today, Niels is our guest. So we plan this to do on a regular basis. Regular means monthly-ish, but don't beat us up if it's not every month. It's just, we try, right? That's the whole concept of it. And having a town square and you just join and let us know what you think. And if you want to show us something important and say, hey, I have fancy new stuff, you can also join the YouTube call and can demonstrate something. So see it more as an open community chat, right? All right, so today we start with, so there will be a link later in the YouTube broadcast where you can jump directly to the technical part, to Flows for Apex, part 2, the 22.2 version. I think it's also a .2 version, right?
Yes, it's 22.2.
Exactly. So if you say, well, I don't care what you guys talking about, don't bother me, no problem. You're gonna get a jump link directly to the content. This will always happen. But for now, I wanna ask you, Niels, as a representative or as our guest, about 22.2, what do you think? And then we go through the to the features and analyze them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. Apex 22.2, that's the first part we're talking about. Great release, sure. Not many big features in it. I like the search region, which is new, and which you can search multiple sources, even external sources. I see that Apex, when it comes to consuming external sources, is getting more and more important over time. So the data doesn't have to be in the Oracle database. It could be. It's a nice cache to have an Oracle database there. But the data is more and more likely to be outside of the database. And for that, you need to consume it, and you need also to search in it. And the search component is something I really like. And next to that, there are, of course, a lot of, maybe more like productivity features in there, like the API invoking that in a declarative way, approval component enhancements, and a revamped date picker. So there are some nice little things in there, but not I wouldn't say those are game changers or so, but they are still good. Yeah. So to give you one idea there, we have some public websites built on top of Apex, and then we Twitter about it. And as soon as you enter a Twitter and put the URL in it, then normally you wouldn't see a screenshot of the website or something like that. And by using now meta tags that are now supported by Apex, you can actually then get the screenshot being displayed of the web page in your Twitter. So I guess that's nice for public websites to use. But in general, it's a clean release, so I recommend to install it. Not much issues there. Yeah, of course, people have to make their experiences with it. So you can either choose to stay on 22.1 and install the latest patch set, which could be a valid choice for a production environment, and then wait a little bit until patch set 1 or 2 is out of 22.2 and then install that in the production environment. But it also depends on what kind of features are you looking for. So if you need that search region right now, of course, it would be insane to build that yourself. So it could be one good reason to upgrade right away.
Okay.
So what do you guys think?
So first of all, guys, if you don't know, Martin is now on the other side, right? He's now part of the Apex team. He's at Oracle, and he cannot say what he really thinks. But this is what we learned, a double-edged sword, double-sided sword, double-edged sword, right? So on the other hand, he can relay our whatever you say and what you think, and he can relay to the team. But he's a little handicapped politically.
I wouldn't put it that way. I just think this is a different angle I can play. And
yes, that's true.
Really, like you said, relay and also hear the feedback, right? It's interesting to hear Neil's opinion and everyone's opinion, and just pass that along, and also take note of it, right, to make the product better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another feature would be the club support, which is also quite nice. Yeah. So that is also for some cases needed. So there's definitely a good release there. But of course, and what I also like is that you can now see that the team has expanded, right? I believe there were like 80 people already on board, so expanded over the last couple of years, and you really now see the development those people did over the last year. So that's really nice, yeah. And there's a lot more coming, of course. So I'm really looking forward to the future. But of course, there is also some work to do. Yeah, there are still some areas where we need improvements.
Okay. I have a totally different opinion.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Of course. So I talk to a lot of people. I wouldn't say a lot of people, but over the time, I know a lot of people, and overall and people, they are not all on Twitter, and they are not, active on Twitter, or they don't, say publicly what they really think. Mm-hmm. But overall, when I talk to them, they are all disappointed. That's just the general feeling I get from the guys, and say, well, this is everything. And same feeling from my side. Overall, I'm disappointed, but not only with this version, but actually with the last 3-4 versions, because I don't see much features that I really could use in my day-to-day work, where I said it really improves my work. Let's go through the features. So when I see that the application search is the marquee feature, the very first thing, right?
Yeah.
This is something I had the chance to talk to Carsten about that, and I totally get that. He told me, you need to know that there are a lot of people and Apex developers out there. They don't know how to make a union and align the columns, names. Because I said, Carsten, really? This is something you blogged about 10 years ago. And we could made exactly the same thing 10 years ago within a day. This is a day's work for us, right? You go through all, you make your context, your Oracle search, your Oracle text context, a search, and for Carsten it's a day. Maybe let's call it, it's 2 days. But overall, and then we have a nice classic report, which we already had with a nice formatting, and that we have the search results. So this is something I could do 10 years ago, easily within a day, right? And they said, yeah, you could do that, but there are a lot of people out there who can't. They really have a problem to make a join a union of different tables and have the same column names. And I said, okay, I get that. And after I just talked to Carsten, I agree 100% on that. So he convinced me this is really happening. It's a great feature for these people, right? Mm-hmm. But for us, well, we could do this 10 years ago. Invoke API process, well, another thing for, let's call citizen.
Hold on, Jürgen, can I just step in there for a second? So you are right? You can do it.
Yes.
But one of you want to target audiences, new audiences that may not have that skill. So I think it's an important thing. I've seen people write these things before.
But didn't I say that, Niels? Didn't I say that it's for citizen developers at rest, and that it's a great idea for them? So I totally agree on that. Didn't I say that? Mm-hmm. Did Martin listen?
Yeah. You said it in a knocking way.
Do you have also the feeling that Martin didn't listen again?
I listened.
Okay. Now let Martin speak for himself. Let's see what he has to say.
I'm just saying, don't underplay that audience, right? I used to personally think like we should make things complicated and it's fun for developers, but there's a lot of developers that don't have the time. I don't even want to say of the skill set, but it's more of the time or the ability to do all those complex things. So packaging it up, these are big features of packaging up a common functionality so they can do it in a few clicks, type a couple of commands, and there you go. You've got something to show, because part of the other thing is the race to win the tool itself, right? You're building a proof of concept within your organization. If you can put this out quickly, that can demonstrate a much faster turnaround for the business users as well, that they can provide feedback. Whereas even if you took a day to write it, that's still a long time.
Who did talk about rambling before? Again, I don't know. I just want to make sure that, was it me or should I tell you?
You can continue on.
I mean, you repeated exactly what I said, right?
I'm just saying.
10 times longer. I said, yes, I get that. For citizen developers, great feature, love it, great job. All set.
Okay, let's move on.
All set.
Right. We're all aligned.
But I'm not, and I know a lot of people, right? I'm in this business for almost 20 years now, and we are a huge community, and we are the customers. We are the original customers. And the whole point was I would say the first 15 years was focused on us. We were the customers. We were very close with the team. They asked, what do you really need, right, in your project? And they built it for us. And every release was something we could really use and improve our day-to-day work and make it more easy and faster. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm missing for the last few versions, right? I'm not saying that this is not a great feature for citizen developers, 100% yes. But from my perspective and the people I'm talking to, we need to, I mean, please guys, I'm in
Yeah.
your corner, right? It's not, I want to make Apex great and improve it. And we are in the same corner, right?
Yeah.
I just want to tell you what and what the people I'm talking to and who are not talking to anybody else, what they really think. And that you get this feedback, because I have the feeling this is not coming through. And maybe you don't see it, or if you see it and they say, well, we don't care anymore about you, fine, that's fine. But it would be sad if you don't realize it anymore, that you are developing not for us anymore, but for some other citizen developers, which is great. But we made this product great, right? With our hard work for 20 years and real hard projects at the customer side, right? We need to make this thing work and run at the end and make it successful. And you supported us great the last 15 years. And this is what I don't see anymore for the last versions. So this is what I'm not saying that this is a bad feature. I'm saying this feature is great for a different audience, right? And so I just go and I can put on my glasses and saying, oh, now I'm a citizen developer. I say, oh yeah, or a manager, a business manager from Apex, and saying, oh, okay, how can we improve the product? Oh, let's target a different audience. Let's target the citizen developers, right? Fine. And then I totally agree with that. But now I take the role as the guy who's doing this for 18 years every day. And now he's looking for a new version, which always brings trouble if you update it, right? It's you have to fix stuff. And so is it worth it to upgrade? This is the most important question for me. Before, we really waited for the next version, and oh, this is the next version, and we already advertised it in our project. Oh, there's a new version, and we can do this and this and this and that. And now the only guy who's asking for a new version is the security department, because the libs are running out. They're getting old, right? And they need to be updated. And we are afraid of upgrades because we have a legacy stack of applications, and we don't get anything out of it for us, the developers, anymore. So this is what I want to say, and it's not only my thinking, but to 10 people I'm talking to, they are even more angry than I am. I am basically the guy who defending and say, wait a minute, you need to see it from this angle. And they said, yeah, that's true. But I don't care. I don't get anything out of it for 5 years now, right? Or I don't know, maybe I overdo it, but this is my general thought.
But Jürgen, if you talk to those people and they have like new ideas what should be in the product. I mean, there's an app for that, right?
Yeah.
apex.world.com/ideas.
Don't let me start with this app for that, right?
Okay.
We get to that later, but let me go through this, just to this feature list, right? Okay, application search, not for me. Great for citizen developers. Invoke API process, not for me. Maybe great for citizen developers. Fine, right? Approval component enhancement, well, never used it. Nice. If I'm using it, I probably appreciate it, right? I don't know. I haven't. Date picker, well, I wouldn't put it as a third marquee feature, a new date picker, right? So this is the third version of a date picker. We had jQuery UI, which were awesome and fine, and I totally get we can't use that anymore. Yes, check. Then moving to chat was a totally wrong decision, right? From day one, because chat is crap. It's not work. It's bulky. It's not fitting into Apex, and you have no influence. And we hated it, and we had this flickering all over the place, and not every chat component is really awkward to use, especially for an Apex developer, right? So they introduced chat, and we were very unhappy. And now they make their own JavaScript library. They built their own date picker. 100% thumbs up. Yes, that's the way to go. Thank you. Do that, right? But I'm a little, confused to put it, hey, the third marquee features. We have a new date picker. Well, I would rather put it somewhere down below in the fine print and saying, oh, by the way, we replaced the date picker out of political reasons and right. But I 100% yes, from an architecture perspective, make your own JavaScript library and you have everything under control by yourself. Thumbs up, do that. But honestly, you should have done that 5 years ago, right? Instead of using chat. Totally honest.
Yeah, for 5 years ago, it wasn't a big team, right? So they expanded their team in the last year. So
yes,
yeah.
Agree. But you get the idea, right? It's not something I would brag about to replace the date picker the third time. This is not something I would put it on this.
Okay, that's a marketing perspective, so to say. And in that case, I would agree.
But this is what I'm doing now. I'm also a UX designer, right? And I watch what people are presenting of themselves. And this is not the right message to say, oh, we have a new date picker. Like, oh, we didn't have a date picker yet. Yes, you had an awesome date picker with jQuery UI. And I get that you have to leave that, but right now, fine, 100% thumbs up, own JavaScript library. Yes, go for that. But we start from scratch, right? We on square one with all the bugs and all the kings. Of course, they come with a new, pretty new 0.1 alpha version of this lib. Yes, but still great decision. Don't put it as a marquee feature. This was just my opinion on this part. Dynamic content region, really? How long do we have that now? How long? There's a plugin, a post plugin already there, right? And I think there was a blog about it from, who did this blog? 10 years ago, how to make this happen. This is the only thing where I say, finally, after 10 years and after we have a lot of other solutions, well overdue. Okay, but why is it coming so late? Club support, thumbs up, finally. Perfect, no complaints, thumbs up, right? I want to be totally fair. PWA, mobile, love it. Everything where I see mobile, yes, 100% yes. Put resources into mobile, it's great. And this is a real important feature. Even if I haven't built a mobile-only application yet, I'm sure the day will come and I will appreciate everything I can get from Apex there. 100% yes, love it to put the effort in there. Yeah, the geolocation, okay. Don't know, I'm not using, this is still mobile, great, love it. Universal, and this is universal theme updates. I'm a little afraid because on every Apex, whenever I'm upgrading the universal theme, my application front end crashes. Then people, well, because you messed around with it. Wait a minute. I remember very, very clearly when Shakib came up at Apex 5 with universal theme, he said, if you never unlock the universal theme, the themes and the templates, right? You are fine to upgrade if you not unlock it and mess around with our templates, which I never did. And I did the first upgrade and I had tons of JavaScript, of CSS, which I had to fix, right? So this message was wrong, totally honest. And now this is the most thing we fear to upgrade to a new universal theme version because we had to fix a lot of stuff. And
I'm not sure if I agree on that point. We have one big project where we did also some customization, and those upgrades of the universal theme, because we also stick to the standard templates, weren't that much of an effort. So it really depends on how you write your customizations, maybe. And of course, if possible, you should stick to the standard.
We have a lot of bugs fixed for the universal theme, right? With the help of Maxime. Maxime helped us a lot, and also Keep helped us. So we made a lot of fixes.
Yeah.
And over the time, we had fixes, and then a new version came up, and then we had new fixes, and then now, and when we had 1,000 lines of fixes, and then we didn't control that anymore. So we started to start from scratch and say, okay, now let's start from scratch, and then we make a separate CSS file and JavaScript file just for fixes, right? The pixel is not right, or the button is not right aligned. I talk about this stuff, right? A pixel too high, this is not right aligned, or it's flickering, all the flickering stuff we had, right, with the chat components. So there's a separate CSS now, but this is what we are afraid of, just telling the truth, and this is where we struggle, right?
Yeah.
Landmark support for regions. Okay, this is something, Anthony, thanks for that. Thanks for putting all that effort into that, even if you don't have a personal stock in that, right? He's still doing it, and it's very important to check marks, right? Because people, oh, are you accessible? And then I ask Anthony, he sends me a list and says, oh yeah, that sounds good, right? You want to give this to your business people and say, this is what we can do, right? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to take care of that. Thanks for doing that. Fine.
Hey, Jürgen, can I just add a personal note in there? So Apex actually now has someone that's blind on the team who goes through, and I'm working on a separate app not related to the Apex core product. And we had to do custom landmarks. And I actually watched and listened to what he has to listen to when he goes through a page, and it's painful.
Okay,
it's really painful for them.
Yeah, I believe that.
If we don't have it. So though I understand it doesn't affect a lot of people, that is a huge thing for people that are visually impaired or have poor vision, because listening to screen readers, like if you don't get it right, just to go what you could move a mouse for like 1 second, it could take them 30 seconds of listening to this voice that's constantly pounding your head. So it is hats off to Anthony and his team for doing that. And again, most users don't think of it, but for those that need it, it is a huge thing for them.
Yeah, I get that. I believe that, and thumbs up for that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
If you ever need it, you're really thankful. Like with the mobile stuff, even mobile stuff is even more awesome. So this is the only thing. This was the only thing when I saw that I said, oh, this is what I'm going to use, right? Renaming the actions of dynamic actions. Just to give you a feeling, this is all I get out of this major version. Me as an old white developer, professional developer, right? This is the only thing I get out from this version. And this is not good. And then we have additional, so like text complete and fine number field. See, this is calendar region. This is stuff like, for example, the new calendar thing should go there. Like, oh, we now switched to that. So let's assume we get this out, right? Down where it belongs. I'm not saying the development is a great development, but this doesn't belong as a marquee feature. This does belong somewhere over there, right under here, number field, and we have a new date picker now because of political reasons. Fine, great. So I don't want to go too much into details, but overall, if I scroll through that, right, I would say, and the people I'm talking to, I would say, well, great job, people, 5 years ago. 15 Apex developers 5 years ago. You did a lot in this 3 months development. Amazing. Not for me. I'm not going to use that. I can't use that. Maybe mobile I will use it, but basically the only thing this is for me is this dynamic action renaming. So you targeted a totally different audience, which is sad, because you're neglecting the audience, the customers who made Apex great, and this for a very long time. But for 50 people, this is not good enough. And
so Jürgen,
what
are
I
you now
really-
applying for a job as product manager for
No,
Apex?
no,
or
no,
what?
no, 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 no. No, I'm just saying this is what the whole point is, right? An open town square to talk about
Yeah,
what we
fine.
really think. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say I represent other people because they didn't ask me to represent them. But I talked to a bunch of people which I know for a very, very long time. And these are all professional developers. And they see it the exact same way. And they are way more angry than I am, right? That they don't get anything out of this new Apex version yet. On the other hand, right? On the other hand, we have a lot of requirements for many, many years, which would really make our life easier over time, right? Like, I don't know, come to the off top of my head, the check boxes for interactive report. Go to the app, go to the ideas app. There are 1,100-ish ideas there.
Mhm.
Nobody cares, right? But
I wouldn't say that, right? I mean,
Okay,
there's actually Jason now actively monitoring that app, what comes in. And when I submit an idea, I really get a response back saying, thank you. And we've now reviewed it and we're considering it for the product. So I really like the concept there. It's not like you throw it in and you never hear back from it again. So
yes, this is exactly what I experienced. I inserted 100 ideas in there.
okay.
And all I heard back after 3 months was more support needed. Now, recently, I agree with you. Recently, I get some stuff back, right?
Mhm.
And let me see who's. Oh, there's Vincent. Oh, let me bring in Vincent.
Okay. Hey, Jürgen, can I talk about the Ideas app? Because I
No, I bring
things.
Vincent in. Vincent?
Okay. Hey, Vincent. Jürgen, can
Hi,
I?
Vincent.
Oh, there
Hey.
it is.
I'm here.
Let me stop the sharing. So thanks for joining. He heard something with the ideas apps, right?
I've listened to you ranting. It's great. I didn't want to stop you, but when you're done, I can start replying.
Yeah, please do.
So I think something that you might be missing, Jürgen, and I totally appreciate everything that you said. I think you're right on a lot of those things because it's very hard to design a product and to build features that will apply to everyone. I'm sure you can appreciate this. Like one Apex release is not going to be for everybody. But one thing that I would like to point out is that when we do these release cycles, we have two specific parts in which we will exclusively fix bugs, So we will do those bug blitz that we call them. And this allow us to inject 200 bug fixes into one single Apex release. It has nothing to do with the PSEs, in which you will get 10, 15 bug fixes. In one major Apex release, you get 200 plus bug fixes. This is incredible. So even if you don't use the features, you benefit a lot from upgrading.
Yeah, but you selling it as a feature, right? And bug fixes is not something I would be proud to say, oh, we have 200 bug fixes. It would really say, oh, we have 200 bugs, right? But we fixed it. Maybe we have 500 bugs, but we fixed 200 of them.
I will challenge you.
I'm appreciating. I totally get that. No software without bugs, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate that, right? That we get bug fixes. But I wouldn't, advertise it too much and say, hey, this is what we do. We're just fixing bugs. We don't do any features for you anymore because we have to fix bugs and we focus on bug fixing. So
we're not advertising it. It's not nowhere near our release notes. The page that you just showed, nowhere near that page, it shows that we have bug fixes.
Yeah, but this is
I will challenge you to Tell me how many new features you use when you upgrade your iOS version. Probably very few.
Yes.
But they come with a wide range of bug fixes and features. That's what upgrades are for. Even if it's yearly or quarterly, people benefit a lot from major releases, even if they don't use all those features.
Yeah, but I don't get the point exactly that there is no feature or in this version or not many features, if any, which I would really look forward to and where I say, oh, this is what burning under my fingernails for many, many years now. And finally, and where I also have to do custom solutions for the customer and invent it from scratch all the time. And finally, the Apex team has a component that can do that. And let's say it, I mean, all the FOSS plugins, every one of them, and there were more than 20, every one of them were hammer on the nail, right? It was everything. Yes, this hurt for a very long time. Yes, this hurt for a very long time. I love these plugins because they are exactly what we're missing. Exactly. Yes, fine. Now you bought these guys and everything. Yeah, but this is what I want to put across, that I don't see us, the old guys, as customers anymore who work their asses off to make Apex great at the customer's place and in general, right? And now we got neglected and we have 1,100 ideas and nobody cares. Instead of, I would be totally fine.
I'm sorry, but that's not true though. There's not 1,100 open ideas.
Well, the last time I checked, there were exactly 1,100 ideas. I have a screenshot about that somewhere.
Right.
But I would be totally fine to say, okay, we have 5 marquee features for citizen developers, and then we have 5 features for you guys, right? What you are asking for 10 years. And then I would be happy. Please make us customers.
I completely agree. I
don't actually, honestly, I don't know why we are neglected and why nobody is focusing on the, the professional developers anymore and make them their lives easier. Right? I don't get that. And this is not just, oh, this version. So this is what we're feeling for many versions now. And this is why the people I'm talking to are pissed.
So
because
Jürgen, what we had in the past was like a advisory board, like a small group of people, high-end developers that discuss these new features. So is that something that would help you if the Oracle team, of course, not myself, would introduce that again?
Yes, this would be one thing, but the first thing is you need to understand the problem. If you see, right, if I have to explain you, Niels, you have to put the fire extinguisher from the wall, and said, yeah, which wall? This wall, there's the fire extinguisher. Oh, okay. And now what are you going to do? And now you have to get rid of the splint, and then you put on it, and then, you, by the way, get a blanket. And I have to explain you all of this, then you don't see the fire, right? If you see the fire, I don't have to talk to you anymore. You do instinctively or the right thing to do. You get this fire extinguisher from the wall and you make it work, and I don't have to explain it to you. As long as I have to explain it to you, you don't see the fire, right? And this is, so and when I say I mean the people I'm talking to. We don't see that we are represented anymore, and that there is, for example, this ideas. I put 100 ideas in there, roughly, and nobody cared, right? And recently I get some feedback, and which is great. And I love this. I love the idea. I love the ideas app. I pushed for that. Sorry, Shakib, I pushed him a lot to make this work, right? Because I saw this as a communication device and interface, right? That we can tell you and show you where we're bleeding, but we got neglected. I didn't get anything for months. And Vincent, you just recently answered to something that was 3 years old or 1.5 years old, right? And this is, right, we are customers. And if I'm writing to any company that I didn't get an answer within a week, this company is dead for me, right? Neglecting is the worst thing you can do. You can say, like I said, I would be grateful to say, oh, we can't do that. This is too complicated, costs too much money. You dream from, you just dream, right? This is not going to happen. It's fine to be neglected. It's fine to be, to say, no, it's not going to happen. And I think, but it is better, but no answer at all. This is like, oh, we don't care about you at all. And this is the worst customer experience you can get, ignorance. And then I
think that's a very valid point, Jürgen, point taken. I think we should have interacted more with the community on the Ideas app. It's definitely not okay to spend a whole year with no answers. Even on an idea that is either good or bad, we should clearly be able to triage it faster and be honest with the customers and say, maybe we will do this. We don't know when, but we think it's a good idea, or it's very unlikely that we're ever going to be able to do this. That yes or no kind of feedback is going to be very important in the future.
Exactly.
And we've recently made quite a bit of changes in our internal workflows and the communication that we're doing to customers on the Ideas app. So if you're going to the Ideas app today, you're not going to be seeing 1,100 ideas. It's now down to 400 something. There's still a long way to go, for sure. But eventually we need to be able to get to a point where we're able to treat and process ideas in real time.
Agree. Yeah, 100% yes. Thank you. Thanks, Vincent. That's exactly what we need, right? Because I mean, we spend our time and our love and our, our creativity and we all want to make this product better. And not getting an answer for a year is not an option, right? This is a disgrace, basically. And just say, it should be like a Tinder app, like yes or no. Right? And because you guys are smart, you are very smart. If you guys sitting there going through the ideas, you know exactly if this is ever going to happen. And you don't have to say, if there is a yes, oh, this will be showing up in the next release. Just like a yes. If there is, we like the idea, it makes sense, we can do it, and it's on our stack. Whenever we have the chance, we're going to do it. Don't bother us again, right? And someday it will show up or not. That's fine. Or this will never going to happen because you don't understand all the implicit complications, what we need to change. It's not going to happen. Sorry, but keep on posting your ideas, left, right, left, right, left, right, right? And then you should be able to mitigate that and so that this is an active, a living application. I would love to go through this Ideas app once a day or once a week and go through the ideas and add my 2 cents. If there are, let's say, 50-ish ideas, I can do that. If there are 1,100 ideas, nobody's going to do that. And a random button, go to a random idea, is not going to help. So if you bring it down to a 50, I'm back in business, and I'm contributing again, right? I stopped months ago, right? But it's more like treating customers, right? This need to be understood. It's not so much that you're losing all the confidence. And a friend of mine said, well, that's the old graveyard with a new UI. And he said, well, you couldn't say that better. Exactly this. And people don't use it anymore. You try it once, right? You already messed it up once. The old ideas app, it's a running gag, right? And now you may have a second chance and you messed it up again, right? It's like you have a relationship, right? You get your girlfriend back and you mess it up again. Okay, and now we give you even the third chance.
Okay.
Please
Okay.
use the third chance.
Let's see if we can make it work this third time. I'm very positive about the current process that we're putting in place. We've absolutely heard your feedback, and we're working towards a more engaged community on the Ideas app.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining, Vincent.
Of course.
Thanks.
Jürgen, one
everyone.
quick thing on this
Bye.
with the ideas. Thanks, Vincent. Is you do have some fair points on some things I agree, some things I disagree, but still, everyone's entitled to their opinion. That said, they are processed internally. We are actively looking at them, and I do appreciate your feedback, like Vincent said, that maybe we can do a better job of voicing that out of what is going, what will happen, and close them quicker. But they are actively being looked at internally. They are discussed in team meetings, so they're not being ignored. I guess maybe what isn't happening is providing that feedback quickly in a timely response back to the community. One quick note for people is if you are looking at ideas, it's not just the ideas that you post. If you do take some time to look at other ideas, please put down on your use cases for them, right? Like you said, I think the Apex team has a good understanding of how to implement or what to implement with some of the feature requests if it's going to happen. But sometimes it's really good to hear, even if it's edge cases, to understand what the community needs or is currently using as workarounds for some of the issues, and getting some of those detailed examples. If the idea is going to go through, it helps to have all that in place. So feel like people, there's more than just liking an idea. There's also the opportunity to provide a lot of feedback and input about what you're doing within your organization around an idea. All right, with that, let's change topics a bit. Jürgen, I had one job for this. You asked, you wanted me to go over questions, and what would you like to have from the Apex team?
So like we had with the Ideas app, just like you said, huge focusing on the app. Don't focusing on the app. Don't focusing on the process. Focusing on us. Recognize us as your most valuable customers. How do you treat your customers if you're not talking to them? If you're not answering to them? How are you going to treat your best customers who made your product great? You're neglecting them. If you see that, like the fire, if you see the fire, you don't ask, what should I do, right? You say, oh, we didn't talk to our best customers, and why? So we need to change that. If I know you are all developers, right? No offense, but there isn't. I'm missing business people. I'm missing a business guy who is not seeing everything from a technical point. And when you ask what would I do? So the first thing I would do, or what I would like to have, I want to have you as Chief Communication Officer. This is the only thing you're really good at, right? I know you for a very long time, cycling in your cellar with a bicycle without wheels. I don't know. This is, but I mean, that's true.
So we don't, Niels, what is your opinion? So you're getting.
No, wait a minute. Let me finish my point. So first of all, I would implement you, because this is very important. Communication of the Apex team to the customers is crap. It's basically not there. I remember how many times did the Twitter account missed the Apex hashtag, right? And I said, this can happen once and then never, ever, ever again. but it happened at least 5 times. At least I always posted to Shakib about that, right? So you need to recognize the developers as customers. Fine, if you also recognize citizen developers as your new customers, great, go for that. But please don't forget us. And we need a guy who is responsible for communication. And Martin is really good at that. I remember this TV show you had when you talked about home office. I know how hard it is in a live TV studio to talk, right? It's very hard. It's 10 times harder than having a keynote speaking to 1,000 people with all, with all the lights and the spots and all this. And you did a really great job, and you know exactly what to say, and you know exactly what not to say, not like me, right? And so I would really love to have you as a communication officer, that everything that goes out to a customer, inclusive this whole messages that's coming out from the Ideas app or the Twitter account or whatever is communicated, should go through over one desk. A guy who understands the background, but also knows how to communicate. So this is what I would like to have. I want to have a great communication officer from Apex, right? And I see Martin would be great for that. That's the best thing he can do anyway, right? And then what I'm also missing is I want to have real QA. And Vincent said, oh yeah, we have $200. Yeah, but really I know there are always bugs because there are crazy constellations, but we face a lot of bugs. The first time you click on it and it's not working. Really? The last bug I reported was it wasn't even implemented. So somebody checked the source code, the PL SQL source code. It wasn't even there, right? So don't tell me you have QA. This is what I'm hearing. Oh no, we have QA. I don't care. It's not working. What I want is real QA, because if you say you have 500,000 developers many years ago, it was 5 years ago, right? And I think the number has risen a lot, right? But let's say we calculate 500K of developers. Let's say 10K encounter a bug. 10,000 developers encounter a bug. These are 2%, right? And they need at least 1 day to fix it and to find a workaround, right? These are 10 million bucks for one bug, right? And if you have 100 bugs, it's out of, let's say we face 100 out of the 200 bugs you're fixing. This is $1 billion shareholder value. It's not like when I'm doing a bug, well, my customers have a problem, but it's not multiplying. If I mean, the Apex team are creating a bug, then it's multiplied times 10,000, because we all face that and we all have negotiations with the business team and what are we going to do, workarounds back and forth, right? It's really expensive. And if you just use a little bit of this $1 billion a year you have and use a little bit to create a real QA team inside a team, not some outsourced people, right, who don't really understand what they're doing and don't care. Somebody who are in the team, they must be part of the team, and a head of who is really responsible for every bug. This is what I really, and it's not really it's not the developers' fault. The developers are great. You developers should make this thing work. This is what we're going to do. We are very expensive. We make it work, and then we throw it away, right? And then there must be a QA team who is testing everything out of it, right? Oh, Martin gave up. So this is there must be a team and coming back and say, no, this is not working. And they need to be in the team from day one when this new component is already designed, right? They need to know exactly. And it's not the fault of the developers if there is any bug. Please, developers, don't. And this is the thing, right? Because we all say, oh, I made this bug. No, you didn't. You don't have a QA people. And that's and don't take this on you, right? Because you cannot test everything. You can either develop or test 150 constellations, right? This is what I'm really missing. Instead of hiring 50 or 80 new people, developers, please hire 50 developers and 30 great QA people. With football, right? You need to have a great defense, offense, and also great defense. This is how you win actually football, not just with offense people. So this is what I'm missing. And I would love to see Scott Spindolini on top of that, because he's exactly the right guy for that. He would be perfect. And these guys should be paid as commission, right? So we have $200. If we have $50 less next year, you get commission on top of your salary. So to have the motivation. Then what I want is real UX design. It looks like every developer comes up with his own ideas how this thing should look like, right? And this looks, I don't see a consistent UX design. And Martin, this is the only thing I'm really good at. UX design. This is what I can do. And to be honest, everything I see, I could fix all your UX problems one day a week. So if you give me 300 hours a year, I can fix all your UX problems. Right? This is not hard to do, but I don't see that there is an investment there. The things are looking differently, and the way they are handled are different. And I mean, what I also would like to see is a redesign of the application builder. It's much too complicated, right? You focusing on citizen developers. There must be something. You remember, this is a maze. The right part, the links on the right part, just delete a session, the current session, the persistent session. Good luck with that to find where this is. It's a maze. Once you had to click on settings and then here and then session, and then you suddenly have links on the right side, and then you have another link over here. No way to find that. You made a great job with the shared components, and the application builder is awesome. It's amazing. I still love it after this many years. It's amazing. I love it every day. So focus on the developer, on the application builder, make decent UX design. It's not hard. So this is what I'm really missing. Handing the ideas app, because we are real customers. This is what I want. And like Neil said, so if you are recognizing us as real customers and value customers again, then you have, let's say, 20-ish, 30-ish ideas where you say, well, this is coming from all of you, basically. Let's talk about that. Make this advisory board. Invite 10, 15-ish people, the guys who are there from day one, like Niels, like me, like, I don't know, we have immediately 10, 15, we have all the same 15 people in our head, right, Niels? You would invite to say, okay, guys, we have so much experience. What do we think? What would we like out of these 20? Make a priority list. And that if we meet, let's say once a quarter, a Zoom call, and we go through the open requirements and say, is this a good idea? And say, yeah, we would love to have this priority. And then we talk again. And that's the problem. We're not talking anymore. And the last time I met the team here in Vienna, and I talked a lot to Carsten, and he convinced me about a lot of things. Oh, I didn't see it that way. Thanks, Carsten, for showing me this angle. And I told him my angle. Said, oh, I didn't see it that way. I see, and this is what's missing. Yeah. We don't talk to each other anymore, right? This is what I want, this advisory board. And what I also want, I want every Apex developer 1 week training on the job. Because what I experience is when I explain my problems to an Apex developer, he said, oh, this is what you're doing. That's interesting. no offense, but over time, if you're not in a project anymore, over years, you lose the contact to real problems. What is really hurting you in projects, right? And what really would help you as developers and also us as customers, just give us one guy a year, or 1 week, not completely the 1 week, and let him assign it to key customers. And then he is joining the meetings, the daily meetings, and he is seeing our application. What are we going to do in real life? Where are our real problems? And then just watch it, and then maybe advise us what to do, but also learn what do we really need in our day-to-day job. And I think this would be a great win-win situation for the developer. I would say, oh, I didn't understand how they are really using that. And oh, that makes sense to make this feature happen, right? So he can bring now the ideas back to the team, and we also got to appreciate, and we also have say, oh, Oracle is really caring. They're having a developer, and he's joining our team for 1 week, right? It's not constantly there, but let's say in a daily meeting, an hour a day, right? And assign native speaker to native customer, like Carsten to the German speaking customers, right? I think they would like it. Like it's training on the job, right? 1 week, it would be awesome. This is what I would like to see, right? And then what I also would like to see is, with all my complaints, Apex is still awesome. Compared to everything else, right? It's awesome, right?
Yeah,
but
that should actually be in the beginning of your talk, right?
yeah,
Apex is awesome. I mean, we're
it's
talking
still
about
awesome.
marketing all the way, right? So
Yeah,
let's start off by
but
Apex is awesome. Yeah?
it's still awesome,
Right.
But I want to still be on the winning. But we are not the only ones anymore, right? You need to accept that. So if you see the charts, there are Microsoft, there are Mendix, and other competitors out there with great marketing, and our marketing is crap, right? We achieved a lot at the end inside Oracle, right? Thanks to Joel. But like I said, communication out of Oracle was always crap. And same goes for Apex. And because these are all developers, of course, these are not business people. I totally get that. So we need great communication. But I also want to be on the winning side 10 years from now. And if you want to be Apex #1 in 10 years, you need to start now. You need to, like, you develop a new language like Swift. They started, I think, 7 years ago before they even announced it. It took 7 years of work. So what I would love to see, I want to see the key developers of Apex, which is, I want to have Patrick, I want to have Christian, I want to have Carsten for the backend. The backend is awesome. It's amazing. It's like this 12-cylinder Lamborghini combustion engine, right? Amazing. But there's still stuff you want to clean up, right? If you say, oh yeah, the API is not that great. Oh, if I have just time to make everything clean and even better and even faster. So I want to have these 3 guys cleaning up the engine. And then I want to have the front end people like Shakib. I want to have Vincent. I also want to have John and Stefan. And I want to have even Martin as project manager. And these guys, their only job is come out with a new front end, which is detachable, where there is a layer and you can switch out the front end completely, because the war will be won in the front end. Nobody cares about the back end anymore, right? If it looks sexy and awesome, people love your product. So it's not about, but we are in the database and we are so fast, yeah. And this database, yeah, but how does it look like, right? So the front end is the most important part. And I would like to have these people going through the world and coming up with the next big thing, which is out there. Maybe they investigate the whole world and they find an Israeli company which making the latest and greatest UX and UI components on the planet, which are not there yet, but in 3 years, right? And they buy the company and they say, we'll bring out something which will blow you away in 5 years, right? So I want to have the core developers, the old core developers building the new Apex 2.0. It doesn't have to be compatible at all. The backend is compatible anyway because it's in the database. But I mean, the front end, you start from scratch. Okay, there is the old Apex, and you have enough developers to take care of the old Apex. But I want to have the old developers who knows everything and who are smart and engaged, bringing up the new Apex 2.0 in 7 years. So Apex 2030. This is what I want. That's all. Is it too much to ask?
Yeah.
Well,
let's hear it in fairness of listening to customers. Niels, I know that was about an hour and 10-minute rant from Jürgen. What are your thoughts on all this?
Where do I start, right? In general, I'm happy, right? I'm happy with the communication. I like the Apex office hours. I like the ideas app. The advisory board is something that could be an idea to introduce that. But from my side, I'm quite happy with communication because I know the whole team personally. So I'm in contact with them regularly basis. So I can give my feedback to the right people. But I do understand that the people that are maybe not personally engaged with the Apex team,
which are 99.9%.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's my view, right? My personal view. So I'm happy from a personal perspective, but I do understand that there are a lot of people out there that need maybe a tighter relationship. So I can see that more interaction could be needed from that side. And when it comes to wish lists, I mean, that's already a huge wish list you're having, Jürgen. But I would like to break it down more on a technical level. So I would like to see more AI in Apex, and you can integrate that very easily, maybe from the Oracle Cloud. I would also like to see more like a top-down approach in development. So right now it's very technical. So you first have to start off with a data model, and then you have to be aware, or you have to be acquainted with Quick SQL, or you have to start opening up data modeler. So that's for techies, that's okay, but for really low coders, that's the wrong approach. So I really would like to see a top-down approach in there, saying, okay, I'm going to model my process, and in this case, I'm going to open up the following screen, and then the underlying data model comes with it. So that could be something. Also, I would like to see a programmatic API, so I can actually build my own UIs. That's.
I remember you asked for that for at least 7 years, right?
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah, and I still need it. I still
agree.
need it.
I agree because you think about all the tons of forms application, right? You could easily replace or easier replace with this API.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, that's one reason. But also, if you make a change in all the applications, let's say you have like 100 applications in your workspace, and you want to just update the button text, that's not possible today. So you have to go into all those applications and change it, or you have to export the application file and then do a replace in the application file. But that's cumbersome. So I guess a programmatic API is still on my wish list to provide. And more recently, and I consider this a more small feature, is the support for key passes. I'm really into authentication stuff and stuff like that as single sign-on. You know that. And key passes is like the new way for authentication. So you just select your username, and then automatically you're logged on with the key pass that's stored on your device. And that gets rid of password hassle, right? You don't have to recover your password anymore. You don't have to change your password regularly. And it is really strong and secure. So I put that also on the Ideas app, and it's already in the top 20 or something like that. So hopefully that gets implemented.
Oh, there's a top 10, 20 list. I didn't know that.
Well, you
Is
can
there-
sort,
is
of
there
course, the
ranking?
list, right? So
Is there
people can
ranking?
vote for the ideas, and then they can sort the list based on the number of votes it gets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's some kind of interaction going on there, but it's not on a personal level. Yeah, and then the CI/CD aspect, I would like to see that improved as well. So if we talk about low code, I would also expect that it would be easily to put something in production with everything that comes with it. And you see that already happening with other vendors offerings. So I would like to see that Apex has also something there in store. And regarding your request, Jürgen, about the simple UI versus maybe an extensive UI, yes, I completely agree that for new people, the UI is a little bit complex. It's too much, right? It's
Too
like
much.
overwhelming what kind of options you get
Yeah.
there.
The last time we counted, it was 5 years ago. I asked Carsten, how many settings do we have in the application builder?
Yeah,
Guess how many?
I don't know, a few thousand.
8,000. It was 5 years ago.
8,000. Okay.
So if you know that you speak a language fluently with 500 words, we're talking about 16 languages, right?
Yeah.
If you know all that, I mean, but it's a lot. It's simply a lot, right? So, and just have a citizen developer switch where you hide all the information. This guy probably not care yet. Yeah, right.
I do understand this, but of course it's very difficult to decide what are you going to offer for those citizen developers and
I don't think
whatnot.
so. I can help you with that. Give it to me. It's easy.
Yeah.
Because it's not the other. If you don't find it, you can switch it on anytime, right? But so the 90%, you think the stuff you don't need and make everything much not so intimidating with all these thousands of settings. Right. And so sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
So there is another vendor out there that has an approach where the citizen developers, and of course the citizen developer, the definition of a citizen developer, that's something, a separate topic. We should discuss that someday, but they have the ability to design a small app. And then it goes to the professional developer that takes care of deployment, scalability, security, and stuff like that. So if you have those people working in one team, I guess that will work, right? And Apex right now it's more for the high-end developer. Of course, there is a lot of people also on Apex, oraclecorp.com, and the internal environment. There are a lot of departments doing stuff with that. So really business people also creating apps. But it takes some kind of IT skills. Yeah. Sure. So it's yeah. And to me, if you talk about citizen developers, it's like, if a citizen developer, so if somebody's coming from the business department and is now doing IT programs, then he's doing something wrong, right? I mean, a citizen development that's coming from the business department is specialized in something else and not building IT apps.
Can I interrupt there? I would rather argue it the other way around. What's the real experience these days? You're in a huge company. You have a problem. You would know exactly what kind of IT solution you would need to solve your problem. These are the business guys. And then they say, yeah, we need an IT solution. Oh, good luck with that. First, write 300 pages of your requirement definitions. And then there will be a huge process and vetting process, who is the different vendors, inviting different vendors. And then at the end, you end up with somebody with some technology, and they tell you something with some price, right? And then 100% sure you spend so much time, so much money, so much effort to even explain these people what you want, which they will never understand and probably don't care. And then you get something back, which is 100% not that what you really hope for and what really helps to solve your problem. So you still do your shadow IT and your shadow Excel solutions additionally to fill this program because you have to do it now. So if you calculate the time, the amount, the money, the nerves, and the frustration you put in there, rather learn Apex for yourself because you have everything in your head already. So just take half of the time, half of the money, and yourself, and it's not that hard. This would be my suggestion. I wouldn't say do something else because they spend a lot of time talking to IT people. They don't care and don't understand them.
So don't get me wrong. I do believe that business people with a certain amount of IT skills can greatly build Apex apps. And I just did a training last week, and there were some also from business department involved, and they were highly eager to build Apex apps. So that's great. But what I do recommend is to have a coach in these teams.
Yes,
so you get to learn the professional way of doing things.
You need to have a coach afterwards. So I made this approach 15 years ago and it was successful. I just made it recently in a real business guy, right? He learned everything. CSS, I showed him all the learning paths, CSS, JavaScript, PL SQL, everything. He learned everything. And Apex, and he can manage my application easily and enhance it. So I'm coaching him once a week, a couple of hours. It's nothing. So it's really working. It's really working. If you are willing to learn that, and he's totally excited because he gets so much more knowledge now, and he has a different skill and level now and value also in this department. Right? He not only has the business value and this business knowledge he already brings on the to the table. Now he can also implement this in his own application. It's amazing, and I think this is the right way to go. So this is why I appreciate to focus on the citizen developers, right? With Apex, 100% thumbs up.
So that's true, but of course, if a citizen developer spends from a business department spends like 30 hours a week developing Apex apps, then he doesn't have time for his real job anymore. So there you have to switch a little bit, right? So differentiate. So if he has like 10 hours a week time for developing apps that help him with his job that he actually needs to do, then it's fine. But to a certain amount of time,
30 hours a week
to IT.
But I would say he also spent 30 hours a week to create a 300 pages requirement definition document and deal with the developers who never understand, who just deliver anything, and there's this endless negotiations, right?
Well, that's not the way we operate, Jürgen. So we always have a team where somebody of the business department's in there, and we have very close communication going on. So it doesn't need to write a whole spec, like 2,000 pages or so. So we really do rapid prototyping to get to the end stage. The question here is,
but
how much
you're
time?
Already doing Apex. I'm just talking about, not about Apex, just a regular day of I experienced it a lot of times where the people did exactly go down this road and they were totally unhappy and they spent so much time and money, and now they get a result back. It took forever, and the requirements changed, and it was then all back and forth and arguments, and a nightmare for both sides. So of course you already come with Apex and have a different approach. I'm not talking about you and Apex, I'm talking about the general, experience. So I would say, it totally makes sense for business people to look into Apex, right? To take some time and then being able to solve your own problems. Anyway,
sure.
I would say, sorry, didn't want to cut you off.
I guess we had another topic to talk about, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Niels.
So this is was just the first part, so it took took a little bit longer. Do we have any question in the chat? Maybe anybody asked something?
People wanted to know if Niels was going to get to talk.
So check. Then I would say we switch to our second part, flows for Apex, the new version. For you guys who don't know, there is already Apex World for Dummies out, which I did with Niels 2 years ago, I guess, when you started the project, which I found very interesting. And so we can look into that, but I also want to make a little recap so you don't have to do that. And now we talk about the new features you implemented it, and it's different people working on that. So it's a serious project by now. And we also, so I watched the office hour and I didn't understand anything, right? And this is why I want to make this, because it's not only me, because it's you are the developers talking about stuff they worked on for months. They're really deep into that, and it's very hard for them to take 10 steps back and explain it to your mother what you're doing, right? And this is the problem, that there is nobody who is interrupting them and say, wait, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because we also have on the other side, we have this flows for Apex solution, which Niels came up with. And then we also have something inside Apex called the approval workflow, right? And then at the end, you even mix this up. So what I want to do today is I want to explain, what does flows for Apex do, right? And okay, what is this covering, and how is this working? And then what is the approval workflow, which is in the new Apex versions, 21.2-ish, I think. What is this doing, and how are they different? And when do I use this, and when do I use that, and when do I use maybe both of them? So this is my outcome today. And we also have Ralph on the call.
Can you let him in?
Yeah.
So can I just do a quick intro on workflow in general?
Yeah. Should I?
With regards, yeah, please let Ralph in. So maybe we'll go from bottom up. Of historically, there are various aspects to this, but historically, or right now, there's 3 ways of doing a workflow in PL SQL and with Apex. And your 3 options are, the first one, and I highly recommend not to do it, is build it yourself.
Wait a minute. First say hi to Ralph, right?
Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Ralph.
He's been waiting patiently. I've been talking to him for an hour, so
hey, Jürgen.
waiting for you to finish, Jürgen.
Yeah, so Ralph is now on the Apex team. He's working on this approval workflow, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm working on the larger theme of digital process automation in Apex.
So this is a guy who really knows the details. So Martin didn't do his homework, because I asked Martin, you need to explain everything about the approval workflow, which he was too lazy to do. So we invited Ralph. He knows everything about it. So if you want to go into details in the approval workflow, Ralph is our guy. But now it's your time. Go on.
I did my homework. I got the expert on. So look, there's 3 rough ways to do workflows. One is, as I said, you can build it yourself. Again, highly don't recommend it. I've done it for various organizations, and you can spend weeks to months easily, right? It's multiple weeks at a minimum. And as it goes on, it just gets more and more complicated. We have now what's called approvals directly in Apex. And after writing several different workflow engines, approvals will be very good, probably for 90% of the use cases. People may disagree with me on
9%. Did you say 90?
90.
90.
90.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain how to get there, because part of that is people, again, may disagree with me, but I think how you interact with the business users really makes a difference. And then when you can't hit that, then you go into flows for Apex, right? Which covers the whole BPMN of, you can do everything on there. And I think it's, for most people, you just have to find what works. And what I recommend for, even without these tools, the process to go about it before determining which technology to use is sit down with the business users and say, what is your current workflow today? And really listen. Don't solution, just listen what it is, even if it's pen and paper. Say what you want it to be then. And the reality is what they'll finally get is something most likely very different, because business users tend to think of the tools they know. So they'll ask for something in a tool that they know. But there's a lot of things that you know as developers that are options and things that you can do really easily. So what you have to do is listen and then saying, okay, this is their desired intent of a workflow, right? They wanted all these complicated things, but at the end of the day, it just might need to go from one person starts it, another person approves it, and a third person finalizes it, right? That's it, or an email gets sent at the end. They may ask for many different things, but that's what they want. So I would recommend listening to what business users truly are asking for. They may not ask it directly, and then go into one of these solutions we'll talk about today.
Are you agree? Do you agree, Niels?
I need to correct one thing. So it's not about the choice 2 or 3. So it can also be combination of those. Yeah. So we did an integration for the approval component as well. So you can have like a process model that is very complex, and you do a graphical design for that. And there can be one step in there that's a user task. And that user task gets delegated to the approval component. So there is like
complicated already. Can we start with one component? Out of my gut feeling, I would rather start with flows for Apex first and see, and then we check the approval workflow. And then, so first I want to understand this part, or do we want to start with the approval workflow? What would you like to do? What does this thing do? What
I think we start with your approvals. Just give a quick demo of that or a description. I'll let Ralph do that, and then we'll go into, because it kind of steps up. So
okay,
and then go into Niels.
Niels,
sure.
Is this fine for you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So what I want to understand is not just a demo, this is how we click and blah, blah, blah. So I want to understand the architecture behind. So I want to understand how this thing is thinking, right? So that we have a table here and then we store everything there. So I need to understand how this thing is working behind the scenes. So the architecture is important. Once you understand the architecture, then it's easy to find, you're looking for the right switches and for the right, fields to fill in something, right? So this is what we are looking for on this show. Ralph, do you want to show something? Or Martin, do you want to show something? Do you want to demonstrate something? Maybe better you show it, and then we have Ralph and he's correcting you.
Martin, do you have something ready? Because
Oh, go ahead.
I was coming here on short notice only, so I haven't prepared anything, but
Okay.
I can talk through.
Let me log in. It depends on how far we want to go on this. I can show you just through the sample app and digging around, but
yeah, it doesn't have to go into details. Like I said,
but
I want to understand the gist of it.
Yeah, maybe I can give a short, like the high level bullet points for you, why we started with approval. So first of all, I'm fairly new to the Apex team. I'm like a little bit more than 1 year in the development team. However, I have like a 20+ year experience with workflow systems. I represented Oracle in the OMG for BPMN 2.0 standard and case management standard. And when I joined the Apex team, I mean, we knew we want to go into this onto a journey for a complete digital process automation solution. So the question is, where do we start? And a workflow system you do not implement from one day to the next. So to get started small, we thought that an approvals component would be a good idea, because approvals you have everywhere pretty much in your business applications. And from a complexity perspective, it is quite contained. So you talk about architecture. So the approvals component, what it really is, it's like a very simple, state engine that moves the task from when it is being created and put on the task list for a user to, you know, when tasks are being delegated to other users, when tasks, you know, are close to the due date, till when the tasks are approved or rejected and then complete. So it's really a small engine that moves the task to a well-defined lifecycle model, and that well-defined lifecycle model is needed because we have this concept of a unified task list, meaning the tasks are managed all in the same way across all of the applications that create tasks in your workspace. So that is the high-level architecture, and so one corollary out of that is that the approval component does not own business data. What it does, it you know, refers and associates a task to your system of record in the database. Meaning, if you have a requisition that you want to, you know, add approval for, certainly your requisition data is in your requisition table or wherever that is in your database. But what you can do is you can link the task to the primary key of your requisition, and that pretty much establishes the link of a task to your requisition system of record.
Maybe now it's a good time to show a demo.
Mm-hmm. And then just one more sentence here.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do, of course, in the approval component, we have things that are very common to all, you know, approval tasks. So we have the concept of comments. So user can comment on a task. We have the concept of, you know, a well-defined history, that whenever something happens to the task, we log that information so that later on you can go into the task list and see, okay, you know, this task moved from this user to this user, then it was delegated to this user, and then we send out an email, and then it was approved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are some common things that you can do as part of the approval component, but we are not managing the system of record.
But what do you mean by system of record?
By system of record, I mean, like, for example, the requisition data or the order data or the employee onboarding data.
Your own data, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Martin?
All right. So maybe to really drive home the system of record concept that Ralph was talking about, is this is a rough way of defining it. There's different ways.
Wait a minute. Where are you?
Okay, good point. So if we go into shared components, and you'll see this new area called task definitions. And by the way, let me even take a step back. First of all, this is the sample application that is called sample approvals. I highly recommend, if you're new to the Apex approval engine, install it. And it's a great place to learn, because it does what I think approvals that most people can understand. You can ask for a salary increase, request a laptop, and I think there's a third one, and you'll get to truly see all the different functionality, or a lot of the different functionality available as you dig around and you kind of edit a page, see what's going on behind the scenes, and then also look at the actual definitions.
Are you saying there are more approval examples in this application?
There's 3 different approval, quote unquote, workflows that you can look at within this application.
In this application, and you can copy them or understand how they are working and copy them then into your.
So that example has, like, you know, covers like 3 use cases where approval is used. One is for the salary increase. Another one is for the job transfer to, you know, to have like another job role, and then the next one is to request a laptop. And they all have, you know, deal with different data, and they all have different kind of settings, like, you know, when do those tasks expire, for example, the subject of the task is different, and all those things. And this is what you manage by the task definitions. So basically, the task definition gives you the metadata for a specific approval use case. And in this sample approval application that we have in the gallery, we are having 3 different kind of use cases where approval
okay.
is used.
So here you are basically define your workflow in chat components, task definitions, right? This is where you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Can you show something, Martin? So.
Yeah, so let's look at the salary change. So what, at a high level, what you're doing is asking to change someone's salary from X to Y, essentially. And these subjects, we can talk about that in a second, but Ralph was talking about.
It looks like Apex items to me. General, or is this true?
Yeah. So basically, what Martin has highlighted here in the action SQL query, that pretty much specifies the context of your task, right? So you see that, you know, the init cap ename is selected here from a table, the salary and the new salary, and by specifying this context, those variables or those variables become available everywhere else in your task definition, meaning you can use those variables in your settings to specify the subject, and the subject will later, you know, appear in the unified task list. And you can also use those bind variables in your task actions, like when you want to execute some code or you want to send an email, you can, you know, those variables are available for you as
I get the concept. Can you scroll up again, Martin? I get the concept. Can you go scroll up? So I get init cap ename, you find in the SQL, sal, you find in the SQL, where is P new salary? I don't find it.
That's down.
That's a task parameter. Yeah.
Oh, that's later. Okay, this comes later. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so every task has what we call task parameters. This is basically, some additional parameters you can use.
I'm not there yet. Can you scroll up again, Martin? Okay, I get that. You create a new workflow. It has a name, a static name, and then a subject, fine. And then you can use parameter names, which you get out of this is your business query, right? This is where you get your business information into this workflow.
Right.
And then you can use this all over the workflow. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And the business information, you can either, like in this case, you can either say, okay, that is coming from a SQL query. Or you can say, okay, you can select a table, and then all the attributes of that table will become part of the context of your task definition.
Oh, great! I see that above table or SQL query. Okay, okay. Then the next step is deadline. What does this mean?
So deadline is a new concept in 22.2. where you can specify the due date for the task. So that is one thing. So you can say, when the task is created, 5 days, I give you 5 days to react on the task, and then it's overdue. And then you can specify, what should be done when the task reached the due date. So, and there are a couple of options there. You can choose to do nothing, so which means that the task stays in your task list as it is, and it only shows like red that it's overdue. Or you can say, I'm going to expire the task, meaning the task moves to a new state, expired, and it's gone from the task list of the user that is supposed to approve the task. Or you can say, I want to renew the task, in which case we create a new task. And you can also say that, how often you want to renew the task.
Okay. What does P7D means? What does due on interval P7D? What does this mean?
So that is, first of all, you can select the due on type. In this case, this is an interval. So this means, so this is a standard ISO language. In this case, it says, you know, the due date is 7 days after the task has been created. But you can actually create, you know, calculate the due date using a SQL query or like an expression or a scheduler expression.
Okay, so is this a special notation for this interval thing?
Yeah. So
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. So the due date pretty much specifies, you know, when the task is due after it is being created.
Get it. Great. Max, you get it. Next slide, Martin. Participants.
So participants is a concept that we have here that, you know, pretty much specifies who can work on the task. And we distinguish between 2 participant types. One are the potential owners. So those are really the users that are supposed to, you know, look at the task and approve and either approve or reject the task. And those potential owners, they can come from either static values, so where you type in Jürgen, for example, and then, you know, you will see the task created for that task definition on your task list. The potential owners can also come from a SQL query or from a PL SQL function, so they can be calculated when the task is being created. The business administrators, those are more like, you know, admins of the task, so they oversee the entire business. A business administrator, for example, can move the due date of the task to some later date, or the business administrator can change the priority of the task.
Do I get more values back? So can I have more potential owner, or do I need to create more lines for?
No, it depends on what you pick for the value type. You can have so each line can have you know, 1 or more potential owners. It really basically you can you know get your potential owners together from a variety of data, right? So maybe you have 1 potential owner that you get from a SQL query, and maybe you have 1 potential owner that you get from a PL SQL function call, and you add another potential owner that you know is always there, Jürgen maybe, right? That always gets the task. So, and when the task is created, we calculate the list of all potential owners from that information.
What roles do we have besides potential owner and business administrator? What else? What other guys do we have there?
That's pretty much it. We have potential owners and business administrator. So potential owners are the ones that are supposed to work on the task and approve and reject the task. Business administrators are more like, you know, for administering the task, like moving due dates, inviting new participants. So let's say you have a, you know, executive hiring task. And you know you get some potential owners from your HR data, but then maybe you want to have for this specific use case, when an executive is hired, you want to have approval from a board member. So then the business administrator can come in and you know, explicitly invite a board member to, you know, also see that task and eventually approve it.
Get it. Next thing, parameters. What is
parameters is something that every task is that you can specify for every task. Those are like, you know, this is like data that you can pass when the task is created. So typically you would use some, like in this case, you know, it's the new salary, but you know, you could also pass like primary key values from other tables that you are going to use in your context. Whatever comes up.
So basically, you're creating an input field there for where you put in the new salary, and you call it internally P new salary, which we saw above, right? So that we know, oh no, this is what I require from you in this workflow. There will be an input field type string, and it is required, and it's visible, and blah blah blah, and there you create parameters for the guys who are working for the potential owners, and they have to fill out this.
And later on, when you create a task in your page designer, we have this human task create plugin, and then maybe Martin can show it as well. So when you create a task from your application, you select a task definition for which you want to create a task. And then what we do is we introspect the task.
Not yet. Let's go through this page once.
So what I wanted to say is, Jürgen, that in order to create a task, you need to bind values to all of the required task parameters. So as you see, there are parameters that are required. There are parameters that are visible or non-visible. Like visible means that the value of that parameter shows up automatically in the generated task details page that we create, but you can also hide it there.
Okay, get that. Actions.
Actions is I mentioned the life cycle states of the that every task is going through. So we have like this is like you can specify actions when a task is created, when a task is approved or rejected with or when a task is delegated, or when a comment is added, or when a task is expired. So we have a list of of events, and for those events you can register actions, meaning that whenever some of that event is happening, you can execute a piece of code, or you can send an email or things like that. So this is very useful. For example, if a task is being approved, then maybe you can execute some code and update a record in your requisition table that the task has been that the requisition has been approved.
Basically, a callback function principle. So
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Get the idea.
Can you, Martin? Can you again go to the drop-down box of the on event? So those are basically the events for which you can register actions.
You saw that, yeah. Love it. I get it. Like an actions events, right? And this is happening. Something you can hook in and do your own code. Why do you have a pink taskbar, Martin? Is this a new statement? Do I need to use a new pronoun? Just let me know. I have no problem.
I'll stay out of that discussion, but I have Firefox, and I clicked on this colorway thing, and I have no idea on how to reset it. So it's just it's pink until Firefox says it's not pink.
Okay. All right, get that. Great. So what else? Show it in action. So we define that here.
Let's just do a quick thing on a job salary change here. I'm just going to show, I think, Ralph, you wanted to show where that new salary comes in. And really what that is the process is to submit a task. And here you can say it's a human task create, right? Because we're creating a new task. Pardon me? We're lost.
I understood the creation of the task of the workflow. Great. Can I see now this workflow in action?
Okay. So let's just say
so now you have a lot of cards. What is that? So you have this is a
so this screen shows you the employees of an organization. So those are the cards, and what is shown in the card is the actual job of that employee and his salary. And what you can do from this screen is that you can request salary, job changes, and laptop requests. And what Martin is right now doing, he's requesting a salary change for Ford.
But how do we are connecting this? What are you calling exactly when you click on a card? Because this card report has nothing to do with the workflow, right? Or you?
No, this is a standard, a card reaching.
Exactly. It's a standard card report. but now you have this button called salary. And what does this button do? How is it connected to your workflow?
Yeah, so the salary button, behind that button is actually a process type.
Can I see that? Martin?
So if you go to application builder, so this is what Martin was showing.
Now it makes sense.
Is that the right one? Can you go to the
This
process?
is, you want to see how this button
Yes,
gets showed,
yeah,
or
exactly.
what happens when you click it?
What happens when I click on that button? Show me the action that happens when I click on this button. How is it connected to this workflow?
No. I guess you need to go
Yeah,
to.
well, you kind of need this, right, to see if there's an active salary task. So, Jürgen, there's a couple of things. This button will disappear if I've already started a salary job, but I think it's easier to look at this page to start. So you request a salary, right, for a given employee.
Okay, what is this page, this modal dialog? Can you open, so you call this modal?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Please.
So this is, it simply loads the employee number, which you pass in when you click that button, the name, the current salary. These are just in read-only mode. It's job. We can ignore that for now. And this new proposed salary, this is the key thing, right?
Okay.
This is read-only where you are today, what you want to change, right?
Okay.
$4,000.
Yes.
Where it's all linked is in the action. Let's ignore this for now. It's this submit task that it's called a new human task, and then you select this definition. These are the three.
Okay, wait a minute. Do you have a type called human task create?
Yeah, so Jürgen, we have two new process plugins. One is the human task create that primarily is there to create new tasks from your Apex application. The other plugin, human task manage, provides operations to manage the task, like approve, reject, delegate, those kind of operations. Yeah, exactly. And this plugin is so this process type is used in the unified task list. And like when you see buttons approve and reject and delegate, then under the carpet behind is like really this kind of a process type.
Okay, I get this process type, but I still don't get how do we connect this process with this workflow we just created?
Martin, can you do one thing? Can you right click on processes and create a new process? Yeah, go there, create process. So we are creating a brand new process. So what you do, you give it a name, and in the type you choose human task create. So if you click that, so next thing what you need to do is you need to define, for which kind of task you want to create.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So you can pick, for example, salary change. So once you pick on salary change, the left-hand side changes and introspects the task definition and checks, okay, what are the required parameters for salary change? So it will show up there and it will ask for the proposed salary. Now you need to bind the proposed salary parameter to a value. And you can do that by either, binding into a page item or binding it to a SQL query or PL SQL function body.
Now we're talking, guys.
Right. And then you associate that process element with a button. And then when you go into your application and hit that button, this process plugin is executed.
Oh, no.
And this proposed salary is, if you recall on the other screen, it is P new salary. Right.
Yes.
In the actual task definition, that's how it all gets linked up. So if we just change this to something different, laptop request, or maybe not job change, you'll see it changes to new job, and there's probably a P new job for that task.
Okay. All right. Okay. And okay, I get that. And now what is the next step when I actually click submit? What's happening? So then the backend process is called, which are defined in my workflow.
Yeah,
this
so
guy-
basically the human task create process. So human task create is a process, is also a process type plugin that is executed. And what happens under the carpet is that we create a new task in the approval component.
And what I see in this page now, what page is this? What do I see here?
Yeah, so this is what we call the unified task list, and the unified task list you can generate from the page designer. So when you go to create page, you can pick unified task list, and then we will generate this kind of a task list for you.
Okay, this is a separate page type.
Yeah.
Get it.
And
Get it.
and when you do that, we have this concept of so my task is basically when you log in as a user and you have a unified task list for my task, then basically you see all the tasks where you are a potential owner, so you can approve and reject them. But you can also create a unified task list for a business administrator, right? So then you would only see the tasks where you act as a business administrator. Or you can create a task list for the task that you created, like when you want to travel or when you want to buy something for your company. You are also creator of tasks, right? So you can create, you can also have a task list that shows the tasks that you have created. So those are the
basically what I requested, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To see the status if it is approved or not.
Yeah.
Get that. Okay, fine. Go back to the page.
Just some notes on this. So this will create the pages for you, but I highly recommend, again, using the sample app and taking a look at what the code actually looks like behind the scenes, so that if you wanted to do, because you're talking about more of the advanced Apex developer, if you really wanted to customize this yourself, there's different ways and APIs you can do. So if you use the sample app and you dig into these queries, what they're doing behind the scenes, and then mapping it with the API reference, there's a whole Apex approval API. You'll get to learn and do a lot more things that you want to customize within the app. So we don't need to go into it now. I want to give Niels also the opportunity to talk about Apex workflows for Apex. And just to let people know, spend the time and look behind the scenes, and also map it against the APIs as well to see what you need to do if you want to customize them.
Get it. Okay. And now finish it. What can I do now on this page? Click on it. I'm missing approval.
These are the requests I've done. Let me just go in quickly and log in as Jane. This is again the sample app.
So you don't have any rights. So
I create it. I'm not an administrator just by default. So this is Jane. She got assigned. She has to log in, and this is that request that I made personally.
Then I get approve or reject.
Yeah, and if you go into this screen, there's a lot of cool things you see. Like you can add a bunch of comments, and it will also show you.
Who created this screen? Who created this page?
So we have functionality as part of the task definition. You can have what we call a task details page created for you. The task details page contains 4 or 5 regions. One is more like a header region that tells when was the task created, who created it, and which application. Then we have this comments region where you can add comments.
Sure. Makes sense.
And we have the history region that shows like a history of the task, what happened with the task. And then we have in the middle we have a details region where per default we show the task parameters in a table. They are like name value pairs, but this generated task details page is pretty much just a boilerplate for developers to come in and customize this page for their own needs. So in this example, we removed that region that displayed the task detail, the task parameters, And we put in another salary history region that shows you this kind of graph. But for the developer, it's very convenient. He can just, push the button, get a task details, a default task details page created that has all that also has all the buttons like release, delegate, request information. Everything is already in there. And then he can simply, customize it to his needs, whatever information he intends to display there.
Great, love it. Click, approve. Come on, make this guy rich. And then you update the database, and
yeah, first of all, when you click approve, the task disappears from the task list of that user because he approved it, and the task is no longer in the hands of that user. The task then moves to the completed state. Eventually, some task actions are executed if you have actions registered for that task, and then the task is done.
Can I see what now as an admin or what happened?
Yeah, as an admin or as the requester, you would still see the task, and you see that it is in completed state, right? And yeah, and you see that there was a comment from there put in by Jane, and you can see the history.
The sorting should be the other way around. I want to see the latest thing on the top and not. I want to see complete.
It's just a report like anything else.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
If you want to change,
Just saying,
that is just a default behavior. You can go in there and change it to any other order you want.
Just in general. Thanks. That's good enough for me. Love it. So you sold that component very poorly, to be honest, in your office hours. It was very, very technical. I watched at least one or two of them. I had no chance to understand what's happening. And now I understand it, and I'm pretty impressed. Well done. So you should sell that better. You need a business to sell these things, not a developer who is explaining what's happening behind the scene, but a business guy who is explaining it from a business perspective, right? And now I get it and say, well done, great, love it.
So there is also an article coming out in the as part of the Red Stack magazine that is shipped, I believe, December 19. I have an article there in German language that goes through the details of the approvals component, and there will be a second part of it next year.
But now I think technically inclined business people or citizen developer understand what this thing is doing, and they can now decide, well, this is exciting, right? Love it. I'm going to use it. And this is the whole purpose of the show. I want to explain it to these people that they understand it and are not afraid, oh, I don't know what's happening. Oh, that looks complicated. And, oh, no, that's not that complicated. And now I understand what I can do and what I cannot do. And now I agree with Martin. I think you can handle pretty much 90% of all your approval or workflow, small workflow requirements with that. Agree on that. I would say thank you very much. Thanks, Ralph. Great explanation. Well done.
You're welcome.
Love it.
Before Ralph goes, we just had one question come in from Robert, and I think it's a great question of where do the comments and data come, like where are they stored?
Yeah, so I mentioned that the approval component does not deal with the system of record, but the approval component has data, of course, and so those are so what we store in with every task instance is the participants, the calculated values who are the real users that are supposed to work on it, and we store the parameter values, and we store the comments and the history. So that is basically the data that is stored with every task.
Everything get that makes sense.
Yeah. So everything that is associated with the task we manage as part of the approval component. Everything that is more like business data, we only keep the reference to the business data, but we do not manage it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ralph.
Thank you.
Well explained. Bye.
Thanks, Ralph.
Bye bye.
Niels, do you still have time and energy to show? But this was, I think it was interesting. Now I'm comfortable with this part, and I'm already comfortable with flows for Apex, and now we step it up one gear, right? If this is not enough for you, now something new is coming in. Let me put this in advance. What Niels is showing, it started with an open source project 2 or 3 years ago, I remember. And
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, and it was already impressive, the first version. But now this has become a serious product, I would say, because now there's even a guy working from the Apex team on this open source project.
Richard?
Now you're working from Richard, exactly. So now you're working from both sides, right? And this is very important for you customers, that it's not just some dude making a plugin in his spare time and abandon it eventually. Yeah, but this is the real life, right? People they install, oh, there's a plugin for that. Great, install it. Oh, it's working. Yeah, for a year or two, and then you're on your own if it's not upgraded for the next Apex version, right? So you spend a lot of time and money in a solution. And it should be there in 5 years. Can you make sure that this is there for in 5 years? This is a very important question. Whenever you start a project, is it still there? Technology there in 10 years? Is the people there? The solutions there in 10 years? Is it still working in 10 years? Otherwise, and this is, and I would say, yes, this is there in 10 years. Why? Because first of all, it's open source, but it still can be abandoned like other open source projects. Maybe Logger or something, I don't know, just came into my mind. But now actually some guy, not some guy, it's Richard, and he's a serious guy. And now somebody from the development team is working on that too. So you're working on both sides. So it's tightly integrated into Apex. And I think this is a great joint venture. It's easy. It's much easier for Oracle to support open source projects. They don't have all the red tape for having an internal product, right? But it's an open source thing, so we're much more free on this part, but still have this integration part because the Apex development team is supporting it, literally, right? Without having the responsibility with all the, it's an Oracle product. So love the idea, and I would say give us a heads up and what is flows for Apex and how does it work and when should you use it?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as you said, it's open source. What actually is it? It's an Apex extension, I would call it that way, because it's not natively built into Apex. It's separately. We have a separate release cycle also, which gives us a lot more flexibility. And it is an open source tool with which you can then build and run process-oriented apps with that are based on the BPMN standard. Yeah, there is a standard out there
for the normal people.
Yeah, so a long time ago already, I believe it was 2013. So in ETWA somehow, and there they put the standard in place, BPMN 2.0. So it's grown already.
But what does it mean?
It stands for Business Process Modeling Notation.
Okay, so it's a certain language for building workflows, right?
In a graphical fashion, right?
In a graphical fashion, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually an XML standard to define your process with, your business process. But of course, not everybody's able to write XML, doesn't make sense, right? It's a machine language. So lots of companies have built their own graphical editor that outputs the XML that is needed for the standard. So you have a way to graphically model your processes, your business processes, and the output is then an XML, and that has, of course, to be parsed in the database or somewhere else. And then
this XML is kind of has this BPMN notation. So, or let's put it the other way. So there are different creating their graphical workflows in a different way, but at the end they export it in this BPMN interchangeable.
Yeah,
So-
but the developer doesn't notice this, right? He has nothing to do with the XML, and that's one of the nicest parts. It's completely
who doesn't know it? I didn't get it.
the
Who does-
developer. So the developer that's working with Flows for Apex doesn't notice the XML at all. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's all running completely within the Oracle
Yeah.
database. So you would graphically draw your business process, click on save, and automatically that XML is then stored in the database, and it gets parsed using PL/SQL. So you have it stored in relational tables.
So you never touch that. You never see that. You don't care.
You don't need to. Yeah, you don't care. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Love that. Can you show us something, please?
Sure. Yeah. I guess the starting point would be the website. Yeah. So if you go to flowsforapex.org, there you can actually download the software. And we made it quite easy to actually to download and install it for
You
Dummies.
say
So
software, explain software. What do I need to install? And
So
why
when
and what
yeah,
is it?
so you click the download button, and with that you have a zip file. And if you would unpack that zip file, you get here, of course, some license notice, release notes, what's in store we have for you. And then we have two apps here, two Apex apps.
License means I have to pay for that.
No, it's completely open source, and it's completely MIT based. So you don't pay anything for it. Right?
Okay.
You can do whatever you want with it. So you can actually copy the software, you can sell the software if you modify it, and stuff like that. So there are no restrictions there.
No restrictions. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then you have here an applications folder. You have two applications. One is Flows for Apex itself, and one is the sample app. So those are package apps, and you install them after you have created your workspace, maybe on apex.oracle.com. You get a free workspace there within minutes. And then you would go into the app builder, and then you would click on import and import those package apps.
Yeah.
So then you have those two apps over here. One is Flows for Apex itself. So with installing that package app, the whole engine is also installed. Yeah.
Define engine.
So you need an engine to interpret the whole model. Yeah. And then you need to create instances, just like with the task assignment, what we've seen before. You would spin up a new task.
So engine is a couple of packages and tables in the database.
Correct.
Do you create a own schema for that, or where does it end up? No, it's ending up in your business schema.
Yeah, it's all completely running in my Apex workspace. So if you have a look in here, you have those tables that start with flow underscore. Those are the Flows for Apex tables. And of course, the whole engine is also installed here in various kinds of packages. And we also provide you with views to get the data out if you need something.
Okay, so it's just like Apex, a repository with an API, right? Tables, views, packages, and so can you decide to install it in a separate schema and use it so that you don't have to import it in 10 different schemas like Locker, that we have it on one installation? And can you do that?
So that's something I certainly would like to do, but that has some security implications. And that's something that we cannot do like just in one day, right? So one part of the project is also depending, of course, on funding, right? So if there are people out there that really need this feature, then they need to talk to us, and then we can prioritize that feature for the next release.
Great.
And we can put something like that in. Yeah, I would definitely like to see that. But as of now, you have to install it in each separate Apex workspace, or you have to fiddle something by yourself, right? So it means open source, you can do whatever you want with it.
Don't forget the last sentence. Don't do that at home. Don't do it yourself.
I don't say that you should do this, but you could do this, right? I mean, that's your own decision. Yeah.
And the good decision is don't do it. But you actually can, basically, I can hire you or your guys and saying,
Sure.
I can say, hey, I want to have this feature, give me a quote, and you say, well, we could do this in 5 days, and let's share the costs, right? And okay, that's very good to know.
So even today, before we have to have this call, I talked with a potential customer that wants to use flows for Apex, and they're missing also a feature. And then, we're going to, we could deliver that feature to them on a paid basis, of course, because if we do it all in our spare time, of course, we cannot do that much.
We don't want that. We don't want that. We want to have reliable products, right? Where you earn money and where we earn money, because we don't have to spend 1,000 hours more to invest in it ourselves.
Yeah. So that's one option, and the other option, of course, would be support. So if you have like bugs found in the software and you need a patch for that, then we can prioritize that as well. But maybe you should have a look in the software itself.
Okay, please. Yes.
So after you have installed it, you have those 2 apps here. And I will start off with the sample app first. And I will go through the Apex application. You can ask questions here and there. So if you start up the sample app, there is this typical process of an expense claim. Yeah, somebody has some costs, maybe parking costs or something, and would like to get the money back from their employer. And that means that you have to submit your expense claim. And if you click on here, you can see all the expense claims that are now outstanding.
Can we, wait a minute, could we do that with the approval workflow in Apex? This specific thing, Martin?
Yeah, so yes, we didn't do this in this demo app. Yeah, because we need Apex 22.1 or higher for that, because before that there was no approval component, and we support Apex 20.1 or higher. Yeah, so the sample app couldn't include yet the approval component.
Okay, but I just want to know, to give people now the decision point. Do we need flows for that? No, we could also do that with the approval workflow now. Right.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're looking at. So if I just click on here, here you can see the definition of that process flow that is now running for the expense claims.
Niels, maybe we start like we did with Ralph, that we start with the definition of a workflow as an example, and then we do the same steps that we see how we put it the other way around.
So, then we start off first with Flows for Apex itself, and that's the part where I can actually create and maintain process flows. So if I start that, we log on here, then we get a nice dashboard, but actually the 2 areas here are more important. One is the flow management. So there you can maintain and create new business processes. And then flow monitor, there you can see as a process admin, you can see what's all running and have a look over there. So let's first have a look at flow management. That's where you then maintain your definitions. So I've expense claims already installed here because I've installed the sample app, and it automatically then comes with this definition. So I can go to show details here, and then I can see the definition over here. How am I
going to do stuff like that, like you have in this flow viewer? How am I going to do that?
Yeah, so we can also click on a new one. Let's click on create model. So let's start from scratch. Let's say call it the demo, and then create. And then I see it's completely empty, right? I don't have anything yet. So let's click on modify diagram here, and then I have my modeler here. So here I am in the graphical editor for my business process. So of course you have to be a little bit acquainted with BPMN, what's that all about. So what's the fuss with all those symbols? What do they mean? And that would take you like a couple of hours to get you acquainted with that. So this is like a start event where you kick off, and then you would have maybe a gateway here, and I will only draw here a simple one. And then this is like a parallel gateway where you go into multiple paths. So you would have path 1 and you have path 2, and then maybe they come together
What you're
again.
talking about now is general workflow knowledge, business knowledge. You need to understand what the symbols mean and what is a gateway, what is a parallel gateway. This is regular knowledge of workflows, and then they recognize these symbols, right? They know what to do. So you need to have a guy who understands the business process, and they need to understand this modeling symbols, how to do that, right? Okay. And this graphical editor, who did this?
This graphical editor is actually BPMN.io, which is an open source JavaScript library. We integrated here in the Apex app. So you never have to leave your Apex environment. You can draw your models here within Apex.
Okay, so this is nothing you created. So this is a full-blown, well-tested and working framework already. So okay.
So the people behind BPMN.io is a company called Camunda, and they are also delivering merely on Java basis their own workflow engine as well. But they also use this BPMN.io. So it's actively maintained, and we use, of course, a stable version of them and integrate it in the next release with Flows for Apex.
Camunda is a huge company in this workflow area. That's huge.
So this is actually the way you work with it. So you have to be acquainted a little bit with the symbols, but you can do a double click here and say decide food to pick. And of course, you could click here, and then you have a range here, and then you would say this is like a manual task. So this is like picking up a fax or something like that. This is something that cannot be digitalized. Or this is like a human interaction going on. So the waiter asks for what kind of food do you want?
We still need humans, guys. We still need humans.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a lot larger than just an approval, right? So it's a lot more to it. So you can also say, I'm going to do a service task. The service task would be calling out a web service, maybe to send a mail or whatever, or to get data in. You could have a user task, and that could be an Apex page you're calling because you need additional information, and then you would go on one step further until the whole process ends. So this is the way you model it, and it could be a job for an Apex developer that is a little bit acquainted with BPMN. That is enough. If you're doing complex stuff, then normally you would have a specialist for BPMN working on this topic.
And you have already people doing that, right? I remember in the office hours, you showed that real companies, complex workflows, they actually use that, and they look amazing. Do you have an example showing how complex this can get?
Let me open up some slides here of the references. So here you can see some reference here. No? So it can get quite complex. It's only tied to your imagination. So it can, and what also nice is it doesn't have, especially with the latest version, it doesn't have to be all in one single diagram. So you can actually split the diagrams up in multiple ones. So you can have like an top management layer process. This is how we do it as a company. And then you have a departmental layer where you say, okay, in the sales department, this is the process we're looking at. So you can make it composable, so to say. This is just one use case from one customer that is using Flows for Apex.
Okay, so this is a real thing.
Yes,
so you can use it. People using it on production and with complex workflow, as you see. So there is there are no boundaries.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It can get very complex. So you could actually do also simple stuff like a simple approval, And in that case, you could also use the approval component. But
Yes.
if you do like more complex stuff and you have manual actions in their interactions, and you have like calling out external web services, and you would like to send out a mail, then it would make sense also in a graphical way, because that's something then that we also have, to use flows for Apex, because also the end user can always see how does the process look like, and can also decide, okay, what needs to happen to move this process further. And a
Call
process,
the right guy, to pay the right guy.
Yeah. Sure,
I didn't
yeah.
say that. Just
Yeah.
an idea.
but it is especially in complex scenarios, and if you have like loads of those instances running, then the process administrator can also monitor that. So you can actually then find out, how are my processes running? Are they hanging somewhere? Does a certain step in the process take too much time? Is somebody maybe lazy, not working on their manual tasks? So that's something you can then monitor, and there's where things get even more interesting with flows for Apex. So you can use it small, but you can use it big.
And you can also, I would rather say, as soon as it makes sense to have a graphical overview, right? As soon as your workflow becomes complex enough that it would be nice to have a graphical overview where this thing is going.
Yeah.
Flows for Apex is the right thing, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A graphical representation is always good to have, even only for document purposes.
And also if you're not sure if your process will ever grow out of the simple approval, you rather want to start with flows and make a simple model, and then you can extend it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having, you have now this internal approval workflow, and then, now it gets too complicated. Now we start from scratch and give the user completely different experience. So,
yeah, and those two worlds can actually coexist. So the approval component can coexist with flows for Apex, because if I was to have here a user task, then I have the properties panel over here, where I can actually say, do I want to call an Apex page, or do I want to call an Apex approval?
this is a separate component even. Okay.
Yeah, so you can actually delegate the approval itself to the approval component in Apex.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Niels, if I started with an Apex approval, let's say as part of it, and then we realized it's way more complicated, but that's the route to start. Essentially what we could do is, like, just to recap, you could expand the whole thing without even modifying your current Apex approval. And that would just be one step of the new flows for Apex, if you had to, again, expand well beyond the capabilities.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah. You can actually leverage what's already there within Apex as approval components. And then, you could call that from within flows for Apex. And there's even a plugin which you can use. So without any coding, you can get automatically feedback from the approval component if something got approved or rejected, and then act upon it within flows for Apex again. So there's a tight integration going on. And that's what you also said, Jürgen. Richard is part of the Apex team. And Richard is one of the guys that's spending a lot of time on this open source project as well. And we're very much aligned. So Richard is also aligned with Ralph. And we are aligned within the team. So that works quite well.
Great. So now let's show me what we do have on the right side for this task to understand.
So in this case, let's say fill out a form. You have to do that. So I click on here, and then I have a properties page here. So in this case, I'm going to say user task type is an Apex page. And with that, we have the Apex page tab here now visible.
So the idea is generated by yourself, right? You don't touch that, or can you create your own IDs? The IDs of the thing, the activity 0. No, the ID activity 0. This is something you create. This is the primary key for your task. Is this?
Yeah, this is just an ID that gets generated for to make this task, this element, modeling element, unique. But of course, I could rename it, and I could say fill out a form here or something like that. Yeah, it just has to be unique across the diagram.
Across the diagram, okay.
Yeah, and then.
Fine.
When you're done with that, you would say, okay, what kind of task type do I have? Do I have an Apex page, or do I want to call the approval? And based on that, this tab, is being changed. Yeah. So let's stick to the Apex page.
Yes.
And when I call the Apex page, I can actually leverage the Apex metadata, or I can do a manual input. But if we stick with the metadata, I get a list here of all the applications in my workspace. So in this case, I want to call the sample process flow application, and then I can choose here which kind of page should be bound to that user task here. Yeah. So that could be, let's say, review claim by manager. Yeah. And then I can give it also page items. Yeah. So the important concept here is that your Apex session only lasts for maybe a couple of hours, at most a day. Then you go home, you close the browser, and your session is gone. Yeah. So all the Apex items and Apex application items are being kept for the Apex session. Once you close your browser, those values are gone. On the other hand, we have long-running process instances. So these process instances can run for a day, can run for a week, can run for several months maybe to get finished. Yeah, depends on the use case. So for that, we need to store some values, and we call that process variables, for those long-running processes. And then with each step in your process, you can do a communication back and forth between flows for Apex and Apex. So you have flows for Apex process variables that have a value. Let's say cost center is set to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you pass that value to Apex for that user task. And then in Apex, something happens, something is done. Maybe a form is filled out or something else happens. That's solely up to you as an Apex developer, what should happen. And then at a certain point, you come back from the Apex development of Apex application back to your flows for Apex. And then you have the communication back again to flows for Apex. Yeah? So you have session state in Apex, and you have process variables in flows for Apex. Yeah? Process variables are persistent and are not bound to an Apex session. And you have your Apex session variables that are not that long lasting. Yeah.
And so, and this is what you enter then as page items, that there is this back and forth. So you saying, whenever I add page items over there, then they are stored as process variables. Yeah.
So you have to enter a page item here. So you could have for this page, it's page number 5. You could give it a, let's say, the XP ID. And you could give it a value, and that value could be a static value, could be based on a process variable. If I was to generate the defaults here, then you can see also the syntax of those process variables. So this is the way we call the value of an existing process variable. Yeah. So in this case, you could have a new process variable, and you could have a name. Let's say my variable here with a dot. And then if that process variable got set with a value up front, then that value would then be passed to the Apex page number 5. And then automatically my page item, which is called P5 XP ID, is then being set with that value. Yeah. So this is the way from flows for Apex user task to Apex, my page 5.
And vice versa. If I change something on page 5, is it stored back into the process variables?
Yeah, correct. Good question. Let's go into the sample app and have a look over there where this is happening. So if I go to the management section here I have the approve or decline section.
So now we're on this page 5, what you
Yes, this is the page 5 that gets called, when I click here on this pencil, and with which all those variables I set in the modeler are then being done. Yeah, so actually the link here that's behind this pencil is actually generated by Flows for Apex based on my properties panel. Yeah,
Get that? Yes.
all right. So
Yes.
then we call this page number 5, and if we edit that page, there's here a page processing section, and then we have the normal processing done by Apex itself. And then we have here an important part that's called complete step of flow instance. So we have actually a plugin we provide you with, and that actually moves the process one step further. So my page 5 drives my process right now. So once I'm done with page 5, I'm telling Flows for Apex, my process instance, go one step further. Yeah. And for that, it needs, of course, a context. Yeah.
I get that. Okay, okay. So you built this model, graphical model, and then you tie it to an Apex page. And the Apex page does whatever it does.
Yes.
And once it's finished, and the Apex is deciding when it's finished, it calls you back and says, hey, Niels, I'm finished. Here are my current items, which changed or not. Store it in your process variable and now move this thing one step further.
Yes.
If there is this gateway thing, can I also say go left or go right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's actually automatically being determined by the engine itself. So if I was to, let's say, move one step further from the starting point, when I start this process, of course, it would normally be here, but the process engine after starting would go here and then would see, okay, this is a parallel gateway. So we're going in that direction, and in parallel, we'll go into that direction. Then we are staying here at the user task, and then something needs to happen from the Apex side. So somebody needs to fill out a form or something else. And once that's done and that plugin is used from our side, then automatically this step is being moved forward to this one and then goes into this situation once this step is also completed. So this is all logic within the engine itself, and this has something to do with BPMN as well. This is something you don't say. Yeah, this is then the only thing you need to do is move one step forward.
Yeah. Okay. So it did not. I'm not interfering with my user pages with the workflow.
Yeah.
I have no contact basically besides I'm finished and here are the variables, and now I don't know anything about your workflow. Right?
Yeah.
Do whatever you have modeled there.
And that's also one of the advantages of Flows for Apex. You have a clean separation between app logic and process logic, because I can now tie process logic to a certain step. So if I was to say this is not a user task, but maybe a script task, and I go to this tab, I can actually execute PL/SQL code here on this level. And what happens if I was to drag and drop here, something else, I would change something in the model, then that code comes with it. Yeah, it stays attached to it. So to a certain extent, you can change your process model and without breaking anything. Yeah, and that's quite powerful, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so you can call an Apex page. You can create PL/SQL. You also said you can create a web service. I can call a web service.
Yes.
Then an email, or so where do I, so you can, it depends on the task type, right? And then you have all kind of.
That's what you see over here. So if you have a service task in a BPMN world, the definition of a service task would be I go outside my database, I'm calling something. And that could be based on your own PL/SQL. So just call apex exec and go out in the world and get data from Twitter or whatever. Or you could say send mail, and that's something we supply you with natively. Then you have this mail tab, and then you can actually use this functionality to send automatically out a mail to somebody.
But you can also use the internal Apex mail engine and call a PL/SQL who is doing all kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then you would write code. Yeah. So in
Yeah,
this case, this is the low code approach without any
Mhm.
coding. You just have to specify the email and stuff like that, the header and what kind of text you would like to send, and we'll take
We
care of
already
it.
have a package with API where we have a, nice templates and everything, so I can call it and say,
Yeah.
send them. So this is exactly what we would need.
But that's what we
Okay.
leveraging as well. So we give you the opportunity to actually leverage also the templates of Apex that are stored
okay,
in
okay.
shared component.
Okay, so nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's quite powerful from that side.
One thing which I already know, but I'm asking basically for you guys to understand. So the thing you're doing here, so this model or this graphical representation is basically rendered notation, and you render that and you put this in your repository table, right?
Yes.
This is okay, this is how it looks like. And then at
Yes.
the end, the model ends up in your internal
Internal.
repository. So
Yes.
you do this work. So you have diagrams, you have events, you have whatnot, right? You break
Yes.
this up in a relational model so that you can work and call these guys. And we don't care about that, right? We don't touch that. This is your engine. It's basically Apex. We don't touch Apex engine. We don't touch workflows engine.
Correct.
This is okay.
What we supply you with are views. Yeah, so you can use all the views that are in here. So if you want to see what kind of instances are currently running, you would query this view, flow instances VW, and then you have all the instances there. You know? So if you want to have an overview of all the diagrams, then you have all the diagrams definitions here. Yeah, so here you can also see the XML specification and stuff like that. So it's all accessible through views.
Yeah. Can you show us one example now from the end user perspective?
Yeah, so the end user perspective would be the sample app. If you install that sample app, that would be the end user view of things. So if I was to create a new expense claim, I could say this is like a parking ticket or whatever. I would give it as justification. I would give it an uncertain amount and would click on submit. And then I have here my entry. So this is my systems of record. As Rolf said, this is my business data, so to say. This is now stored in a local table.
And this page was built by a regular Apex page, built by a developer, right? It's still on the business logic.
Yes, correct. This is standard Apex development, what you see here.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
The only thing that's special here is that we made it available to let the end user see this current state of the process instance. So if it was to click on here, he can then exactly see, okay, the process was started, it got validated. Right now it's waiting for a review expense by some of the managers. Yeah? So that's where it's standing right now. So you actually get the whole history with it. So in certain, like an audit trail, so to say,
so with
the official way.
With the insert of this page, you called basically, can you show me the connection when you did this save of this expense? What is happening in the Apex page? When you click submit, what does the submit button do? Okay,
what does the submit button do? Of course, it calls page processing. So it goes from top to bottom here through. Yes. So first of all, we have like a standard insert being done on our local table, just regularly Apex behavior.
But how do I know that this is tied to any workflow? How do I tie it to a workflow? That's exactly what I'm explaining right now, because that's happening here. Yeah. So here we have a create start flow instance. We use one of the plugins we supply you with. And then with this, you can actually create and start a process instance of Flows for Apex.
Of course, you have to give it some kind of name, instance name. Yeah. So this is expense claim made by this user and with this amount in US dollars. And then we have to also supply what kind of diagram are we talking about? Because in Flows for Apex, I can have like thousands of diagrams defined. So it needs to know about which diagram are we talking about. And I did this now based on the component setting of plugins. But I could also specify static text or based on a SQL query or use an Apex item to define the process I'm talking about for which to spin up. Once I've done that, I can also set the business reference. And this is like the tying things up between the Flows for Apex and Apex itself, or the business record, so to say. So in this case, I'm going to store the primary key in the business reference. And the business reference is a process variable. So I'm going to spin up an instance of the process. And it also has a process variable there called business ref. And the value of that business ref is my primary key of my systems of record. So my business record.
Okay, for regular people, this is what I understood. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have this workflow definition, and this definition or this workflow can have many instances, right? You start this, different users start 1,000 instances of this one model.
Yeah, that's what people are currently running even, yeah, and that to
exactly.
that.
So when this thing is running, so there is an instance creating of this workflow, and then you say, well, I need to have a primary key to tie your business expense claim to this workflow, right? So
yes,
this must be, they need to know each other on a primary key level.
Yeah,
right.
Could be primary key, could be a business key, could be something
Whatever
you would like to use. Yeah.
So you need to talk to your instance, say, hey, I'm Niels. I want to have $100 for parking, right? And this is my ID, and I created this instance. So then this instance is running for Niels' parking ticket. This is what you do here, right?
Yes. So
okay.
Let's switch quickly to the process admin monitor here. Where here can I see my processes running. And right now we've created a new expense for $100, and that's actually this one. Yeah, so I can click on here and I can actually see where it is currently staying. This is also what the end users could see, but a process administrator can see it in this way. And you can also click here on details, and then you can see those variables here. So I was talking about the business ref. And now I can see that this process is now tied up to a business ref with a primary key 21. No?
Okay.
So there I have the technical reference, so to say, with my local data.
You look behind the scenes, which you normally don't need to know, but you can check which actual ID is using.
Yes.
Here. Okay.
Yeah.
Get that. Okay.
So that's something you need to provide, and then you can do some optional stuff if you would like to. But anyway, this is the most important part, of course, that you would spin up a new process instance and tie it up with your systems of record, what you have created locally. So and once it is running, you would then click through the process as I showed you earlier with that plugin move one step further. And that's exactly what happens if I go back to my expense claim here and would go to a manager role. So I will change roles right now. I'm not the employee anymore. I'm the manager of that employee that needs the money back. And I can see exactly here, okay, this $100 parking ticket, validation was done using PL/SQL, so it's all clear. So no limits are exceeded or whatever.
But this is already, this is again now an Apex page developer did, right? A regular Apex page. Okay.
This is again, but this could also be my unified task list. Yeah, in Apex. So I could leverage that functionality that's built in Apex to create such a page. Yeah? In this case, I built my own custom page. Yeah? And then I would click here on review, and then I can actually say approve or decline. So let's say I'm going to approve this one. Then it goes out of my list. So my inbox as a manager has one entry less. But when I change heads again to the employee, I can see here now that my systems of record, the status flag got changed. It's now approved manager. So if I click here, I can see the current state, and I can see now that my plugin got used to move one step further. And then the engine takes care of the whole logic here. So that means like it goes to status, and based on the process variable decides, do I need to go here or do I need to go here? In this case, it got approved. So it went here. Then we have like another check being made. Is the expense limit more than, let's say, $50? In this case, it was. So it goes into this path, and now it's standing here because here we have a user task again, where somebody, in this case, a vice president, needs to approve my expense claim as well.
Which costs now much more than your parking ticket, right? If two people have to take care of that. Just say.
It's just a sample app, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with real reality. You have different limits, of course. But in this case, it has to do a review as well. So, and there is another page for that. And
the whole thing. Yeah, I get that. Okay. Yeah, totally understood. Thanks a lot, Niels. Great demo.
You're welcome.
Took a lot of time. Sorry, guys. And it wasn't planned that way. But I think it was important to cover both today. Right, the approval workflow in Apex and flows for Apex, because they are so similar and actually tied together. And it's very, very important to understand these both components. And of course, it was our first show. And so in the future, we plan to have maximum 2 hours and having, let's say, 30 minutes or even less, right? What's happening in the Apex world? Open discussion, and I would love to have more interactions with the audience if they want. But I think I'm totally happy, and it's not that easy to make me happy. Martin knows that. So was very long, but I think it was worth it, and you can jump right to the meat. Can I still say meat, or is it already forbidden? Can I say, or is it already,
Yeah, I would really suggest that we put a link straight to the start when Rob came on, and I think that's good.
There are jump markers, right? There are jump markers in YouTube where you can say, okay, I jump to the flows part, right? And this is what I'm gonna do every session. That there is the first part, and you can always immediately jump to the content part, right? And then people can decide what they want to watch, right? And they can skip forward, and
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any questions? Did you even attend this? Did you even listen what we explored? Can you explain me flows for Apex now?
Level. It is it's an advanced workflow engine, graphical design that still links in with Apex. So
this was a diplomatic answer saying no.
No,
I guess he got the point. Yeah.
I think, again, use it, sit down with the business users before you choose your tool. Understand where you want to go. And I do like to me, one of the key things is if you can start with a simple approval process, go with the Apex part just to start it off, right? And it's not lost work, because if and when it gets much more complicated, you can integrate it in without losing things, right? The experience can somewhat be the same, at least for part of it. Because I do like, Neil, like the integration that you have, that you can say, just take an existing approval, and that's part of your work step, or part of your one of the steps in the processes, and then go from there, right? So that's what I'd recommend.
Did you say start with flows or start with approval workflow, internal Apex approval workflow. What would you?
Again, it depends. It depends on the situation. But if you don't know and you have a simple thing to start with the Apex approvals. You can get it out of the box running right away.
Mhm.
If it expands beyond the capabilities of what Apex has out of the box, then you can integrate in with flows for Apex and still not lose that portion that you spent time and effort and also that your users are experiencing. So the core users, let's say you had a core group of users that approved expenses, they would probably still experience the same thing. And then if there's all this after effects of which department gets the expense, then which, depending on the department, again, if vice presidents have to approve it and all these other nuances have to occur, they can occur after the fact. And so it's the best of both worlds, depending, again, you don't know what you don't know when you start. So start with what you do know and go from there.
But do you agree, Niels?
Yeah, I mean, the approval of component is called approval component. So it does an approval and it does a pretty good job at doing an approval. So, and as we see in Flows for Apex, it does a lot more. So it can call PL/SQL, it can call a service task, it can call a business rule task and implement PL/SQL over there. It can call a certain Apex page and do something there. You can even do a manual task and you do it all in a graphical representation. So its scope, its possibilities are of course a lot more, but yeah, I totally agree. If you're looking for a certain simple approval component, then I would certainly recommend to start off with approval component. But if you need more, then Flows for Apex is the way to go.
Can we say workflow is handled in Apex now?
Well, this is only one part of the total way. Yeah, so there are lots of features. You mentioned the centralized installation alone for Flows for Apex. So that's one thing I definitely would like to see. So the end is not there. Yeah, we need to keep going.
Of course, it's great that you're improving the product and keep on developing, and you need to maintain it anyway, right? With new versions and etc. But from my point of view, if somebody is asking me, can Apex do workflow? What do we say?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Right?
Yeah. And actually, that was actually triggered for years ago because I had a client situation and I did an Apex talk, an introduction, and it was all great. And then the last question was, yeah, what does Apex offer in terms of workflow? And I was like, oh shit, I don't have an answer on that. Yeah, it's all customized. Yeah, and okay, there's open source a little bit here, small tools, but it's not updated anymore. So that got me also thinking, saying, okay, what's the best way? And it took me two approaches. The one approach was integrating Camunda as a workflow engine, but it never took off. And then the second approach was Flows for Apex to get the BPMN engine into Flows for Apex. And with the team we have, we actually pulled it off. Yeah. So and we have now 4,500 downloads. We have over 50 customers, at least we are aware of. So those are great numbers already.
Yeah, and you're working with the Apex team, so it's a tied-in product, I would say. Or how do you say it? In extension, right? Apex extension. So we can be sure that it's there for the next 5 years or 10 years. So it's a safe investment to use that, right? Love it. Great, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. Took much longer than expected.
Thanks, Niels, again for your time.
And and guys, if anybody's still listening, we had 40 guys on the live stream. So if you ever watch that offline, of course, most people will watch that offline. If you have any questions still, first part, second part, whatever part, write something in the comment. We will check it every now and then, and or write us an email to Niels, to me, to Martin, right? So this whole thing is a community approach. Ask question, join. If you have something, if a great idea, we will answer the comments and show something. Like, it doesn't have to be like a Flows for Apex thing, could be a small thing, right? You want to show the community, yeah, let us know. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Great show. Let me stop the stream on YouTube. Wait a minute, my first time I did this. This is it. And I stopped the recording.